Now on to our top focus, and that is the rising anti-India hate in Canada. Now I may sound like a broken record because many of you must have heard me say the exact same thing 48 hours ago on this very show. We were talking about Canada giving a free run to pro-Khalistani sentiment. Unfortunately, this is the reality under the Trudeau administration. It all began on the 18th of September when Justin Trudeau alleged that India is involved in Khalistani terrorist Hardeep Singh Nijjar's death. They expelled an Indian diplomat over it. That charge was repeated just a few days ago. But close to a month later, the Trudeau administration has failed to provide any evidence to substantiate that claim. Since then, India, both through words and action, has cornered Canada. Diplomats were sent packing, citing the Vienna Convention on rank and strength parity. Visas were halted in Canada, citing security reasons, and on the global fora, India revealed Canada's track record of turning a blind eye to the rising K movement. The latest rebuke coming in from S Jaishankar, the External Affairs Minister, during his trip to the United Kingdom. First up, he reminded everyone that Canada has given space to violent and extreme political opinions for decades together. This is not a new phenomenon. That they advocate separatism from India through violent means. S Jaishankar also said that Canada didn't act when the Indian High Commissioner and diplomats were attacked. Their safety was put in jeopardy and Canada did nothing. On the Nijjar case, S Jaishankar came out and said that we've not seen any evidence yet as far as the allegations are. They're credible allegations is what Justin Trudeau has said, but where is the evidence is the clear question India is asking. S Jaishankar also added that Nijjar's social media posts are graphic and that he held public positions. Another reminder that such elements have not been just accommodated but given full platform in Canada. No matter how many times India shames Canada on the world stage, there seems to be very little political will to stop this anti-India hate. In the last 3 days, we've seen 3 different instances, if not more, of Khalistani supporters running amok there. Hindus in Brampton who were celebrating Diwali were attacked on the 13th of November. They were holding Khalistani flags, these attackers. They pelted stones at Hindus and hurled abuses at them, as you can see. Surprisingly, there were cops that were present at this event. They were mute spectators, did not take any action. Then a day later, on the 14th of November, some new videos emerged from Abbotsford. Here, the Sikhs for Justice organization disrupted an Indian consulate event where life certificates were issued to few community members. These K-goons also targeted a local Sikh family because they attempted to pick up an Indian flag from the ground which was being disrespected by these people. Even the elderly were not spared by the pro-Khalistani sympathizers. Now again, Sikhs for Justice group has threatened to disrupt an upcoming event in Brampton. The event in Mississauga is also something that is on the radar if they are not called off. A poster has now been released by the Khalistani outfit that claims that India is actually trying to build a spy network in Canada to these certificate camps. These posters also have the image of Hardeep Singh Nijjar and a call for his killer. Now, India's High Commissioner walks around with a target on his back in Canada. Even the highest diplomat of this country is not safe, many would say, because of pro-Khalistani sympathizers there and people like Gurpatwant Singh Pannoon. Pannoon, the founder of the outlawed Sikhs for Justice, is offered a cash reward now for citizens' arrest of Indian High Commissioner Sanjay Verma. He accused the Indian diplomat of raising the bogey, this is what he said, of a terror threat to Air India, when in reality, it was Pannoon who released a video not too long ago threatening passengers of Air India flights on the 19th of November. This is the day of the ICC World Cup final in Ahmedabad here in India. Canadian officials, in fact, even initiated an investigation after Pannoon's video asking Sikhs to not fly via Air India on November 19th came out. In that video, he said, don't travel on Air India flights on the 19th of November or your life will be in danger because there is going to be a global blockade. Now, Canada's shield to Khalistani sympathizers is not new. In the past, there have been several instances where Canadian government has exposed their soft corner. Let's take a look at some of those instances. In 1974, India's nuclear tests strained Canada-India relations due to the alleged military use of Canada-provided Candu reactors. This coincided with the rise of the Khalistani movement in Punjab. Now, the man who plotted the horrific bombing of the 1985 of an Air India plane of Ireland, which killed 331 passengers, Talvinder Singh Parmar, was sheltered in Canada. Under Justin Trudeau's father, Pierre Trudeau, in fact, the Canadian government refused to extradite him to India. Then in 1985, the High Commission of India presented a diplomatic note to the Department of External Affairs regarding the threat to Indian diplomatic missions or to Air India aircraft by these extremist elements. Again, what was the response? No action. In 2002, Toronto-based Punjabi Language Weekly greeted Indira's death anniversary with a cover illustration of her being murdered and a headline that urged readers honor the martyrs who killed the sinner. This magazine received government advertisements. It's now a prominent daily in Canada. No action then either. In 2010 and 2012, former Prime Minister of India, Dr. Manmohan Singh, had warned his Canadian counterpart over the rising support amongst Canadian Sikhs for Khalistani elements and for them trying to foment trouble in Punjab, and yet absolutely no action. This is just the track record which S Jaishankar was also speaking of, that there is no political will, there never has been for decades together as far as crushing this anti-India sentiment in Canada is concerned. So does Justin Trudeau have any defense left? That's the big debate tonight.
We have tried to work constructively and positively with India, and we will continue to. This is not a fight we want to be having right now.
Canadian politics has given space to violent and extreme political opinions, advocate separatism from India, including through violent means.
Hello, Moto.
Joining me on this broadcast, Lieutenant General KJ Singh, defense expert, former Indian diplomat Rajiv Dogra. But I want to begin this broadcast and I want to begin this debate by asking my first question to a columnist who joins us from Toronto, Dean Baxendale. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us here on this broadcast. And Mr. Baxendale, I would like to ask you, why do you think we see this lack of political will? Or why do we see a repeat of this ever-rising hate against India, this ever-rising Khalistani movement in Canada?
Well, thank you for having me on. Actually, I'm in Washington today meeting on a number of key issues around diaspora communities globally. I think, once again, I don't understand. India is a great ally of Canada. We have 1.4 million diaspora community members originating from India, both Sikh and Hindu, as well as Muslim. But this continued rise in this rhetoric, and not in Canada not wanting to actually combat these issues where terrorist elements and extremist elements get a voice under some sort of perception that they should have free speech rights, and yet we see them attacking individuals of the Hindu community, at large, at events. This is not free and fair protest, and quite frankly, the Canadian government and the intelligence agencies in Canada have a duty to protect all Canadian citizens from such violence and extremism. But these kinds of things are being leveraged, and unfortunately, we have an NDP leader who has also shown his kinship, or certainly sympathy, towards the Sikh separatist movement inside Canada. And of course, Justin Trudeau's government is hanging in the balance based on the alliance between the NDP and the Liberals.
Yes, but it's not just Justin Trudeau. We've seen this through decades, really, and this is just how it's been. There has been always pleas that have fallen on deaf ears. These attacks that have gone, that have been turned a blind eye to, and unfortunately nothing changes. For decades together, India has been raising these issues, and Rajiv Dogra, I want to get you in on that. One government after another, there just seems to be no political will. I mean, the highest envoy diplomat of our country, the High Commissioner there, is walking around with a target on his back.
Well, you are right. It all started with Justin Trudeau's father, Pierre Trudeau, when he was the Prime Minister of Canada. He was told by his own intelligence agencies that these Sikh terrorists are planning to plant a bomb in one of the Air India aircraft, which is exactly what happened in 1985. So he ignored all those warnings. So he has the blood of 300 plus Indians and Canadian citizens on his hands. He is gone, but he's transferred that legacy to his son. Now, the first thing Canada should have done was to have extradited those responsible for that aircraft's bombing in 1985. It did not do that. In fact, it has done the exact opposite by releasing the terrorists prematurely. The second thing is, a sense of wonder I have. Why is it that every 5-6 days, Justin Trudeau, the present Prime Minister of Canada, gets up, says something which makes no sense for a Prime Minister to be saying? I mean, last 6 months, he's only been saying that there are allegations. Then this time, he's gone a step forward and he says he doesn't want to fight with India. I mean, is it a wrestling match that he's the Prime Minister of? What also surprises me is that every time his opinion ratings go down in Canada, he comes up with this same formula of allegations and fight and so on. Now, over 6 months, are his intelligence agencies in a better position to tell us who the murderers were? Do they have the car numbers? Do they have photographs of the murderers? Have they captured them, or have they vanished in thin air? Or is it that the murderers were from the party which is supporting Justin Trudeau and it was all an in-house job planned to put India in a corner? And that is what he started doing from his first statement. So, there are more question marks than answers in his consistency in being inconsistent with what he is saying. He has no proof at all. He refuses to share any evidence. Otherwise, normally he would have even gone public with the evidence that he had. Obviously, he keeps saying we have given evidence without showing any proof of that evidence. So, Justin Trudeau is putting Canada in a spot which even Pakistan was not, because Pakistan never admitted to any terrorism, whereas Justin Trudeau is sleeping with the terrorists in his cabinet. He's got his coalition partners as declared Khalistani terrorists. So Canada is going a couple of steps beyond what Pakistan was as a terror state. So I think Canadian people need to watch out what they are heading in for and the trouble that stares them in the face, not just from Khalistani terrorists, but from terrorists all across the world who find refuge in Canada.
Right, and it's domestic compulsions perhaps, Dean Baxendale, the fact that popularity that currently Trudeau has, the lack thereof, if I could say so, that is perhaps why we're seeing him make comments like this, perhaps trying to divert attention of his voters, of his countrymen from the actual issues that matter.
Well, I think you're absolutely right. Unfortunately, we've now created an international incident with a close ally and a values-based society in India that we need to combat other, geopolitical threats. Why Justin Trudeau has leveraged this for his own political gain obviously could be seen by the poll numbers, and it's tragic that we are, playing, footloose and fancy free with facts and information. However, I will say once again, and I have said this on your program before, I think at this particular point in time, there is going to be no evidence coming forward to demonstrate this, given the actual ongoing investigation. Having said that, I think that the diplomacy here between the two nations has been clearly lacking in the sharing of information and insights on both sides. And we have done very little, to your point and your last guest's comments, to actually combat any of this kind of extremism inside the country.
And it's not just extremism that's rising, Lieutenant General KJ Singh, isn't it? It's organized crime that also Justin Trudeau seems to not be caring about. We see these gang wars break out every now and then, especially in the last 6 to 8 months. That is something that India has also been pointing to, that there is organized crime there, and that is something perhaps they should look into, because they are linked. We are seeing these kind of gang wars that take place and the anti-India sentiment that is being whipped up, and you cannot isolate one from the other.
See, Poonam, Jai Hind, thank you for having me on your show. The problem is Canada has allowed a kind of a very sort of open or very lax kind of an ecosystem where large number of players are operating. There are gangsters from India who are holed up there and they are operating from there. There is evidence of China having set up police stations, illegal ones, and having applied coercion on Canadian citizens. There is also talk of ISI agents who had eliminated Balochi activists who were living in Canada. Now, with this kind of environment where it is a free for all, you have somebody like Hardeep Singh Nijjar, who definitely was not an above board personality. He was dealing in a lot of things, extortion. See, entire music industry in Punjab, there is extortion taking place. And the people who control that extortion are sitting in Canada. So, now Nijjar was part of, some people say drugs, some people say extortion, some people say taking money from Gurdwaras. So, where is the guarantee who has, or how can we prove that who's done this? With so many players there. Some people say Chinese could have engineered it. So the best thing for Trudeau is to give the evidence, clear evidence. If there is something sensitive, give it in a sealed cover. Give it to India. And Dr. Jaishankar has said, we are not averse to investigation. Investigation can take place. But the start point is evidence. Evidence has to be provided. And Poonam, you are right. The effect of all this is taking place in Punjab. There is unchecked kind of activities which take place here. Extortion takes place. Music industry is under coercion. We've had incidents of bombing and other things where links have been traced back to Canada. Gang warfare is taking place and with effect in Punjab. So naturally we are concerned. We can't allow, Punjab is a border state.
Yes.
We can't allow Canadian people sitting there enjoying immunity, running the show over here. And I am particularly concerned that, see, this party, Liberal Party, whenever it is in power, it crosses all thresholds. You know, conservatives are still a little better. Though there is a laissez-faire which is taking place in Canada and which needs to be put in correct sort of rules have to be put in place. But especially the Liberal Party and supported by Jagmeet Dhaliwal. This is a cause for concern. And I hope Trudeau sees some sense. And like your other columnists are saying, rightly so, it's not only Sikhs over there. There are Hindus, there are students. We have lots to do with Canada. You know, India is thinking of making now Striker sort of amphibious wheeled vehicles.
Yes.
They are made in a plant in collaboration in Canada. So many things can take place with
Absolutely,
Canadians.
and there is a lot at stake. It's not just diplomatic ties. In terms of trade as well, India is an extremely important partner as far as Canada is concerned. And these are things that the Canadian administration must not gloss over. And Dean Baxendale, I also want to get you in because as far as the Nijjar case is concerned, you know, India has been categorically saying where is the evidence? Show us the proof and we're open to an investigation. But Even when we had Justin Trudeau stand up on the floor of the parliament and say and make this allegation, he said credible allegations. He didn't say there was credible evidence. So many would wonder, is there evidence at all to begin with?
Well, exactly. That's what I said earlier also.
It's a very good question.
Yes,
I think,
Mr. Baxendale.
The Prime Minister would not have, come forward if he did not have some credible insights of whether or not the direct evidence to which all of the Indian population would like to hear, and so to the government of India, whether or not that's forthcoming openly or not is another question. And I think at this particular point in time, given the ongoing investigation being conducted by the RCMP, probably in cooperation with our domestic intelligence services, that they're not going to release any information publicly. So what I would hope for is, my apologies, what I would hope for is that that diplomats open up the channels to have a discussion, to show or demonstrate what kind of proof that they have, and share that information with officials within the Indian government. And we should get this, we should bring this out of the public light and solve it behind the scenes at this particular point in time. That, I think, would be prudent for both countries.
Sure, maybe not publicly, but between the two countries, the evidence must be shared, or perhaps the Trudeau administration must restrain itself from making these public comments, because it was really them who started making these comments publicly. So you cannot have a situation where you make the allegations public, but when the other party asks you for proof, then you want meetings behind closed doors. But let me talk about the diplomacy of this, Rajiv Dogra. What next? We've seen the kind of actions that India has taken, including sending some of the diplomats back, citing the Vienna Convention, that there has to be parity as far as rank and strength is concerned. There were also reports that suggested that many of them were, trying to foment trouble here in India because they had diplomatic immunity. From here, where do we go on next? Because right after that happened, we saw Canada come out and make more outrageous allegations against us.
Well, I think before I answer that, let me make it very clear that sharing evidence with public and in public is not unprecedented. We do it all the time. When we see a terror attack happening on our soil and we have some evidence that these people were involved in that terror attack, and if we have their photographs, we give it to the media. That's what an open society is about. We don't make allegations, but we provide the proof of their involvement in a terror attack. So does America. So does any number of other countries. Why is Canada fighting shy of giving us at least photographic evidence in public of the people they allege to have murdered Nijjar? And I'll repeat it again, that unless their own people were involved and they don't want to give any evidence, I mean, there are videos of the car going away from the scene of murder. Don't they have the number plate of that car? Don't they know where it vanished? And it was an old car. There won't be millions of such cars in Canada. So Canada obviously has more to hide than evidence to give. Secondly, coming to the issue of next steps and what diplomacy is involved, let me also make it very clear that Vienna Convention makes it very amply clear that it is up to the host country to decide how many diplomats of a foreign country should stay on its soil. And it was strictly according to Vienna Convention that India took the step of asking Canada to withdraw 40 of its diplomats.
Yes.
Because India felt they were excessive in terms of staffing. India also felt that they were interfering in internal affairs of India, just as some of the terrorists and Sikh extremists, the Khalistani extremists, are doing sitting in Canadian soil. So India has reason to be concerned, and the next steps would be a natural of its concern. And the natural of its concern is that Canada must forthwith stop such activities which hurt India's interests, and in its own interest, Canada must stop these activities, because 1.3 million or thereabouts Indian people of Indian origin reside in Canada, and tomorrow they can be attacked by these extremists. Moreover, there are about 200 to 300,000 Indian students at any time studying in Canada who bring in billions of dollars every year to Canadian exchequer.
Absolutely. Like I said, it's not just about the diplomacy or the diplomatic relations. There's also a lot of money at stake, which is why Canada needs to take this seriously. I'm unfortunately out of time, but I want to get in one last word from Lieutenant General KJ Singh. Canada must take action, but we rarely see that action happen. Video after video comes out. We see all of it being caught on CCTV footage, and some of them you can actually see the policemen standing there, right there, and doing nothing. What can we expect then from the Canadian authorities?
Poonam, it's very sad. It's unfortunate. India has taken it up with USA. India has sensitized UK, the other members of these I5 countries. It's time Canada enforces law and order and security for its citizens. A country cannot become lawless like this. And if you allow it to spin it out of control, it'll become a riot over there. And you are destroying amity which is between communities over there.
Yes.
Traditionally, like in Punjab, Sikhs and Hindus live side by side. There is no such kind of a feeling or enmity. Diwali is celebrated together. All festivals are celebrated like this. So why shouldn't it happen in Canada? I just can't understand. A fringe element is allowed to hijack the agenda, is allowed to gain publicity, do irrational activities, and that's all allowed because police is standing by. It's very unfortunate. And it's, Canadian police at one time had a very good reputation.
Yes.
Royal Canadian Mounted Police. We in security structures cited that, like Scotland Yard, like Royal Canadian Mounted Police, and now we have come to a stage that it is free for all.
Yes, and their intelligence agencies too, they were known to be above par as well. Unfortunately though, they cannot track down people who are attacking Hindus there, who are attacking Indians there, completely running amok, absolutely no action being taken against there.